Hello and welcome to Tomi Talks TV, the place to be to build great love relationships. Now, welcome to Tomi Talks TV. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the art of communication. Now, in case we haven't met before, my name is Tomi Tuluhi. I'm a relationship architect and I've been married for 22 years and I help single and married people build great love relationships. Now, just take a moment and share this video on your Facebook page so that, your friends and your family can join in, and then let's get started with our conversation this evening. Now, if you're out there and you can hear me, just click the heart button or the like button or, whichever button, just to let me know that you're here. And then also take a moment to share this live broadcast on your Facebook page so that other people can join in as well. And also, if you've joined, then please drop me a comment to let me know where you're watching from. Because we've had people watching from the USA, from the Netherlands, from Malaysia, from Qatar, from Dubai, in all sorts of places before. So just drop me a comment to let me know where you're joining from. Memunata, it was great to have you joining. Thank you very much. Memunata says it's a nice topic. Thank you very much for joining. So just let me know where you're joining from. We have people usually joining from all sorts of countries all over the world. So it's great to have you watching this evening. Now, in this discussion this evening, I would like to do three simple things. First of all, I'd like to help us understand the true importance of communication in relationships, because communication is really, really crucial in relationships. So that's the first thing I want us to do. Secondly, I want to explain the single biggest reason why communication fails in relationships and how to avoid it. Carol, great. Thank you for joining us. It's nice to have you joining me. Hello, Uche. Thank you for joining me from Imo State. Oh, great to have you joining me. Thank you very much indeed. If you've just joined, just please drop me a message. Let me know where you're watching from. Carol from Dubai. Oh, excellent. It's lovely to have you joining me. So, and then the third thing I'd like to do is to explain the three fundamental elements of effective communication. Oh, great, Polite. Great to have you joining me. Thank you. Thank you. Otan Zion from Lagos. Thank you for joining me as well. It's great to have you watching the show this evening. So I'll be taking a Q&A session at the end of this discussion. So just get your questions ready. Any questions that are communications related and you'd like to have me talk about, just, get your questions ready. Tony from Istanbul. Excellent. Thank you for joining. It's great to have you joining us this evening. So before I go into what I'm going to be sharing today, I've got a special announcement for anyone that lives in Lagos or the Lagos environs. You might have seen the advert on my Facebook page, but I'm running a live session. I'm going to be live in Lagos on November the 3rd this year. Thank you for joining, Pamela. It's great to have you joining us. So on November the 3rd this year, I'm going to be having a live seminar and a workshop. It's actually a masterclass, a singles and marrieds masterclass, and it's going to be holding at the Muson Center. Now, registration is required. Thank you, Oyekola, for joining from Ibadan. So if you just go on to our webpage, which is www.marriagemasterclass.org, you'll be able to register there on the page. Tickets will sell out very fast, so please do register as soon as possible. Stephen, thank you for joining. Michael, thank you for joining, watching from the UK. Excellent. Great to have you joining us this evening. So as I said, don't delay because the tickets will sell out very fast indeed. It's on the 3rd of November if you live in Lagos or anywhere near Lagos. The theme is transformed. Nasela, oh great, thank you for joining. If you just joined, let me know where you're watching from so that I have an idea of where exactly it is that you're watching from. So today, as I said, we're going to be talking about the art of communication. Now, the first thing I'd like to do is to talk a little bit about why communication is so important in relationships, because communication is so critical in relationships. So that's the first thing I want to do. Wuraola, thank you for joining from Ogun State. It's great to have you joining us this evening. Excellent. So communication is so crucial in relationships, and I want to talk a little bit about why. A willingness and the ability to communicate is fundamental. It is crucial to the success of any relationship. As a matter of fact, A couple's ability to be able to communicate effectively is the single most important skill that contributes to having a stable relationship and a stable marriage. If you're out there, just send me a like or a thumbs up or something so I know that you're there. Joyce from Taraba State, excellent. Thank you for joining. It's great to have you this evening. So, many times when relationships fail, the reason why they fail is because communication has failed. That's simply the reason. Thank you for joining. Abigail Rosemary, it's great to have you joining us. Relationships fail many times because of a failure in communication, because communication can either create or sabotage intimacy in a relationship. So it's crucial to understand communication can encourage progress in a relationship, or it can just simply grind that relationship to a halt. Okay, Mute from Delta State, excellent. Thank you for joining us. So it's really, really crucial that we understand how important communication is in a relationship. Now, my favorite scripture when it comes to talking about relationships is Amos chapter 3, verse 3. And it says that, do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? Chude, thank you for joining. Do two walk together except they have agreed to do so? Thank you, Praise, for joining as well. Do two walk together? I want that to sink in. Can two people walk together? Now, the emphasis is on that word together, because relationships are all about togetherness, doing things together, going somewhere together. And in order for you to be able to journey in life together with someone, you have to agree the direction and the pace in which you are going to go, where exactly it is you're headed, and what pace you're going to take in order to get to where you want to go. So you have to agree. And in order to agree, you have to communicate. Rosemary, thank you for joining. Deborah, thank you for joining as well. You have to communicate, and you have to communicate effectively. Two people cannot possibly work together to any destination without actually communicating effectively. So that's why communication is so important, and that's why we're talking about the art of communication. So when you want to join your life to someone else's, then you both got to be able to communicate, because where your mouth goes, your marriage goes. And where your mouth goes, your relationship goes. Now, somebody just type that in the message box for me and say, where your mouth goes, your marriage goes. Or where your mouth goes, your relationship goes. And if you like that, just, give me a like or a heart or something. Thank you, Rosemary, watching from Stockholm. Great to have you watching this evening. So it's really, really crucial that you understand how important it is, that we communicate effectively in our relationships. If we're going to get to where we want to in our relationships, a breakdown in communication is one of the strongest predictors of divorce. And that's why we need to be alert to the signs of communication breakdown in a relationship, and we have to address them quickly. So the second thing that, I'd like to say is that we need to understand why we're talking about communication. So why talk about communication? I mean, when you think about communication, isn't it as simple as just opening your mouth and basically talking? But you see, there is more to effective communication than just opening your mouth and forming words. That's the reality. There's more to effective communication than just opening your mouth and forming words. If you agree with me, give me a like or a thumbs up, or, send me some love or some hearts so that I know you're out there and I know that you agree with me. So, we need to understand that communication goes beyond just opening our mouths and speaking. Sometimes people think because they are talkers that they are communicators. A lot of times people think that, you see, but that is not necessarily so, because effective communication is so much more than just talking. And that's why I've called this session the art of communication, because communication is an art. You see, every one of us, we're all born with the equipment or the apparatus to communicate. We're born with a mouth, we're born with 2 ears, right? Someone said that, the reason why we have 1 mouth and 2 ears is that so that we listen twice as much as we speak, right? Thank you for all the love. Thank you for all the likes. Thank you very much. Now, but we need to realize that effective communication is an art. It's a skill. It's an art that you master over time because you apply yourself to it. It's not something that comes naturally to us. So I'd like you to type in the message box, say effective communication is a skill. effective communication is a skill, because it is a skill. It is a skill. It's not something that comes naturally to any one of us. It's a skill that we all have to learn. It's a skill that we all have to develop. We have the equipment, yes, we've got the mouth, we've got the ears, but we've got to develop that skill. And that's what this conversation this evening is all about. Now, there are 3 parts to effective communication, and this, is really crucial to understand. 3 important parts of effective communication. First of all, we need to realize that effective communication is the art of saying what you really mean in a way that is easily understood and received. Let me say that again. Effective communication is the art of saying what you really mean. So sometimes we say things that we don't mean, or we don't exactly say what we mean. So it's the art of saying what we really mean in a way that is easily understood and received. So it's not enough for you to just say it as it is, because sometimes I'm sure you know people, or maybe you've done that in the past, where you say, well, I'm just saying it as it is. It's not enough to just say it as it is, because if you alienate the person that you're talking to by the way you communicate, then you have not communicated effectively. If, by the time you communicate, you raise barriers between you and the person whom you're talking to, then obviously you haven't communicated effectively. So you have to communicate in a way that is easily understood and received. If your communication is not understood and is not received by the other person, then you will be unable to make progress in the relationship. If you agree with me, give me a like or a thumbs up or a heart or something like that, so that I know you're out there and you're following and you agree with me, right? So that's crucial. Effective communication is the art of saying what you really mean in a way that is easily understood and received. Now, the second important thing about effective communication is that effective communication is also the art of understanding what is being said to you. So that's the other way now. Understanding what is being said to you with and without words. Because, there's so much. Communication is not just about words that we speak, but it's also about, words that, things that we communicate without speaking. Communication, there's a lot to do with, non-verbal language and all that. So to be effective at communication, you must understand what is being said to you with and without words, and also communicate to that person that they understand, that you understand exactly what it is that they're trying to communicate to you. Right? So you need to make them feel understood. If you are communicating with someone and they don't feel understood, then that simply means that you haven't communicated effectively yet. So you have to be able to communicate your understanding to that person so they feel understood. So it's a two-way street. You learn to say what you actually mean, and then also to understand what the other person is saying, right? And then thirdly, and very importantly, effective communication is communication with a clear intention. And I want to dwell here for a while. It's communication with a clear intention. You see, the intention of building the relationship and not tearing down the relationship is very, very important. And that simply means you have to be able to understand what the person is saying. You see, hearing does not equal understanding. Now, can somebody just type that in the message box so that, I know you're getting what I'm saying. Hearing does not equal understanding. The fact that you have heard what somebody says does not necessarily mean that you understand what they have said. So you see, effective communication means that you have to have a clear intention of exactly where you're going with this communication. And the whole idea is you're trying to build that relationship with your communication. You see, and this is potentially the most important aspect of effective communication, because it determines how we go about communicating. So we must define what our intention is when we communicate. That's very important. What benefit is it to you if you win the argument, but you lose the relationship? Now just think about that for a moment. Buki, thank you for joining us. Great to have you. What benefit is it to you if you win the argument? So you've won the argument, you had your way, you had the last say. But what's the benefit to you if you win that argument but you lose the relationship? It's of no benefit. So if you've got to be able to communicate in such a way that you preserve and you build the relationship. If you agree with me, just give me a like or a heart or a thumbs up or whatever, just to let me know that you agree with me. And if you're just joining, please just type in the message box where you're joining from so that we know where you're joining from. It's great to have you joining us. So effective communication is not something that we achieve by, a haphazard approach where communication is just like a free for all, where everybody says whatever comes to their mind, first, without computing the consequences or thinking about, what the consequences will be for the relationship. You see, because we must realize that communication always has consequences, whether good consequences or bad consequences, whether negative consequences or positive consequences. They always have consequences. Anytime you communicate, it has consequences. So when you communicate, your relationship does not remain in neutral. And that's one thing you need to realize. It doesn't remain in neutral. It's either appreciating or it's depreciating, right? So you must understand, where exactly is this communication leading my relationship to? Thank you, Ebby, for joining from New York. It's great to have you. Aga from Abuja, great to have you as well. Como from Germany, excellent, fantastic, great to have you. Kubili from Borno State, thank you for joining as well. So many of you joining us today, thank you. It's great to have you. Just send me some likes or some thumbs up out there, just so that I know you're flowing along, with what I'm saying. So when we communicate, we need to realize that we're either moving the relationship forward or we're regressing in the relationship. And as such, before we communicate, we must define the intention. Define our intention, define what our end goal is, and let that end goal inform our communication strategy so that we arrive at the destination that we've planned. Because you see, if your end goal is just to say your piece, just to air your views, just to let off steam, well, more power to you, but you will not achieve the relationship intimacy that you want to achieve. You will not achieve, an intimate relationship by just saying your piece or just airing your views. But if you actually value the relationship, you will communicate in a certain way. If you don't value a relationship, you will communicate in a certain way. If you want to bring healing to a relationship, you will communicate in a certain way. If you want to introduce division in a relationship, you communicate in a certain way. If you want to encourage respect in a relationship, you communicate in a certain way. If you want to introduce insecurity, you communicate in a certain way. Etuk, great. Thank you for joining. It's great to have you with us today. So you have to be sure that you define your end goal. Define your intention. Define exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve with the communication. Because every time you're communicating, your relationship is either moving in the positive direction or it's moving in a negative direction. Thank you, Eunice. Thank you very much for your comments. Great to have you. Thank you, Christian, for joining from Middlesbrough. Great to have you as well. Every time you communicate, your relationship is moving in one direction or the other. So define your intention. Type it in the message box so that I know that you're there and you're hearing what I'm saying. Define your intention. Define your intention. Define your end goal. Be certain exactly where that, communication is leading your relationship to. You see, we cannot pursue one communication strategy and expect a different result from the strategy that we pursue. That's the bottom line. So if you're pursuing a particular strategy, then you get the result of what you're doing basically in the relationship. Essentially, it's like if you want to eat corn, you plant corn. You don't plant potatoes. Yeah? If you understand what I'm saying, if you agree with me, give me a like or a thumbs up or something like that. If you want to eat corn, you plant corn. You don't plant potatoes. So if you want to reap respect in a relationship, you plant respect in your communication. If you want to reap joy in a relationship, you plant joy in your communication. If you want to reap understanding in your relationship, then you plant, understanding in your communication. There's a scripture that I love so much that, is so poetic, and it's in the book of Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 11. Thank you, Beatrice, for joining us. It's great to have you joining. Proverbs chapter 25, verse 11, it says, like apples of gold in settings of silver, so is a word skillfully spoken. I love that scripture. That's Proverbs 25 and verse 11. Just picture it and let me read it again. It says, like apples of gold in settings of silver. That's talking about beauty, something beautiful. So is a word skillfully spoken. So you see, it's important that we're skillful in the way that we speak words, in the way that we choose words. You see, because if we just open our mouths and say things, the way they come to our minds, we may not get the result that we want to get. But if we want to see beauty in our relationships, then the scripture says, then we have to use words skillfully. So we need to develop the skill of expressing ourselves so that we don't sabotage the intimacy that we're trying to create in a relationship. If you're with me, give me a like or a heart or something, or a thumbs up or a smiley face or just something so that I know you're there, I know you're with me. And if you're just joining, then type in the message box where it is that you're watching from so that I know that you're watching us. Isaac, thank you very much for your comments. So let me quickly mention 2 types of communication that we need to master in a relationship before I go ahead. Now, there are 2 types of communication. First of all, there's communication when all is going well. That's the first type. Communication when all is going well. So the purpose of this kind of communication is to ensure that things continue to go well. Is to do what I call relationship maintenance, right? Building intimacy on a day-to-day basis and ensuring that your relationship is growing and moving in the direction that you want it to grow. And that is the subject of today's discussion. Adeyemi from the USA, thank you for joining, right? So that's the subject of today's discussion. Now, next month's live show, which is going to be on the first Saturday of next month, I'm going to be talking about communication when all is not going well. So I'm going to talk about conflict resolution, and how exactly you deal with, difficult situations in a relationship when the communication is not really working. But today we're talking about communication when all is going well in a relationship. Now, the single biggest reason why communication fails in a relationship is this: men and women are different in the way they communicate. And I want that to sink in. I want that to really, really sink in. I want you to just type in the message box, so that I know that you're following me. Men and women are different in the way they communicate, and that is the single biggest factor from my experience why communication often fails in relationships. And that's something that we need to grasp. It's something we need to understand. Men and women communicate differently, and unless we understand and accept and celebrate those differences, then we will miss the mark in our communication and we will end up frustrated or resentful in our relationships. And it doesn't have to be so. It doesn't have to be so. So we need to understand that, look, the way that men view communication is different from the way that women view communication. And when we understand those differences and we celebrate them rather than trying to change each other, it makes a huge difference in the harmony in our relationships and the way we're able to build intimacy in our relationships. So now, before I explain these differences, let me just give a quick disclaimer here, because there are exceptions. So I might, when I'm sharing, you might find that, well, you might say, well, I'm a woman, but I'm not quite like that, or I'm a man, I'm not quite like that. So for every rule, there's always an exception. But generally, what I'm going to be sharing is the norm that generally fits most men and most women. This is how we tend to differ in our relationships. Charity, thank you for joining. It's great to have you. If you're just joining, if you haven't just dropped us a message in the message box to let us know where you're watching from, if you haven't done that yet. So, first of all, let's talk about how we communicate. How we communicate as men and women is very different. So, women on the average are more voluble than men. That means to say they talk more or they use more words than men, right? And as such, they use a lot more words to convey the meaning that they have in their hearts, typically more words than men do. And this is a scientifically proven fact. There was some experiments that were done, and it was found that there's a certain kind of protein in the woman's brain called the FOXP2 protein, which, controls, the use of words, and women have more of that than men do, and because of that, they typically tend to use more words than men do. Now, let me share a statistic with you. On average, women use 20,000 words a day, while the average man uses 7,000 words a day. Now, somebody say, or give me a like or a thumbs up or something so I know that you're there, right? Now, when you think about this, it's staggering. The average woman uses 20,000 words in a day, while the average man uses 7,000 words in a day. There are, of course, exceptions, like I said, but generally, this is the rule. Women tend to talk more in their relationships than men do. So when you think about it, 20,000 words to 7,000 words, that is a gap of 13,000 words that needs to be bridged in a relationship if that relationship is going to go smoothly. So think about it, if you're a man, you go to work and you go and use 6,950 of those words before you come back home. You need to know that your wife may only have used 10,000 of her words at work, and she has another 10,000 in store waiting for you, right? Waiting to unload those 10,000 words on you. So you come home, and you're managing the remaining 50 words in your word bank, and, she asks you, somebody says women talk. Well, that's how God made us, right? So we need to celebrate that difference. So you ask her, or she asks you, how was your day? And you say fine, because you're only using one word of those 50 that are left. For her, it's not enough. Recognize that she needs to find a way to use her 10,000 balance of words, right? So also, let me say that as a wife, you need to be sensitive to your husband's plight, because when he walks through the door, don't bombard him with words. As soon as he enters the door, give him time to recover. Give him time to decompress, right? And then maybe he can dig deeper and find a reserve of words to minister to you, right? So there has to be a balance. So when your wife starts talking, or the woman in your life starts talking, understand that there's a reason why. There's a reason why, because women use more words than men do. And when a man doesn't seem to be responding the way you want him to respond, then understand, that, there's a reason why as well. What if it's the other way around? It does happen. Like I said, there are exceptions. So it might be the other way around, in which case you switch you switch the advice that I'm giving you right now, because it does happen that, sometimes the man speaks more than the woman speaks, right? So if you're a wife, you need to understand where your man is coming from. And if you're your man, you need to understand where your partner, or your wife is coming from as well, right? If you're with me, just type in the message box, I am with you, right? So that you understand. So this is the reason, like I said, it's one of the main reasons why men and women fail to communicate effectively in relationships. But we have to realize that there's this difference, and we have to celebrate that difference, because that was how God made us. It's not a mistake. It's by design. There's a reason for it. Now also, apart from how we communicate, there's also a difference in why we communicate. And that's also very important to understand. You see, men and women usually have different purposes in their mind when they communicate, right? So the purpose of communication affects the pattern of communication. Did you get that? The purpose of communication affects the pattern of communication. So the purpose that you have in your mind affects the way you go about communicating, or your pattern of communication. So let me share with you two key differences in why we communicate as men and women. Men communicate, or they speak to convey facts, right? But a woman would generally, most of the time, speak to convey feelings. Thank you, Yodun, for joining. It's great to have you joining us. Right? So a man speaks to convey facts. A woman speaks to convey feelings. So when a man says the sky is blue, he probably just means the sky is blue. Right? When a woman says the sky is blue, she may mean the sky is blue, or she may mean the sky is blue and it's a lovely day and that makes me feel like being with you, and wouldn't it be nice for us to go out together? So let's go and spend some time together. Right? So there may be a lot more in her mind when she says something, because men just speak because they're communicating facts, but women speak to communicate feelings. And there's a big difference there, right? So it's a question of, are you communicating facts or are you communicating feelings? So just type in the message box, facts or feelings. When my husband and I were courting, just before we got married, we read a book about this whole business of facts and feelings, actually. So we used to make a lot of jokes about it. So sometimes when I talk, you say, okay, are you communicating facts right now, or is this about feelings, right? So I know exactly where you are, and we will have a good laugh about it. So you have to understand that men mostly are just talking pure facts. Women are talking feelings, right? So you have to understand that there's that difference. And also the second difference is that a man listens to solve problems. So when he's listening to a conversation, he's thinking about how can we get to the quickest solution so we can solve this problem and we can move on to something else. But you see, a woman listens to connect and to build intimacy, right? So she's all about connection, building intimacy. So while the man is thinking, look, let's find the quickest answer to this, to this issue. Let's find the quickest answer, so that we can solve this issue and move on. She's thinking, look, talking to you is a bonding experience. And she's looking for intimacy. She's not necessarily looking for answers when she talks. And when she listens, she's just looking for how to bond and to feel close to you and to feel intimate with you. You see, but many men miss it, because as soon as their partner starts speaking, I beg your pardon, they immediately go into overdrive and they start preferring solutions. You know, she's sharing her feelings, you're giving her solutions. You're giving her the wrong thing, because that's not what she's looking for at that point in time. And that can be very difficult for men to understand, because men are problem solvers. You know, so they're looking for, how can I solve this problem so that you don't feel weighed down by it. But really, what she wants is for you to listen, to empathize, to understand exactly where exactly, you'd like the transcript. Okay, yeah, that's absolutely fine. I will share the transcript. Right, so we need to understand that we're coming from two different places. So she wants intimacy, not answers. If you're a woman, type it in the message box and say, I want intimacy, not answers. It's not always that, your wife is, or the woman in your life is looking for answers. She's very often just looking for intimacy, for connection, for sharing. She wants you to feel how she feels. Now, let me say this. Neither purpose, I've said we both have different purposes when we communicate. Neither purpose is superior. So it's not as if, a man's purpose in communicating facts is more, is superior to a woman's purpose in communicating feelings, or a man, in communicating, solutions is superior to a woman who is, just communicating for bonding. Both of them work together. They work hand in hand, you see. And when we bring the two together, then we build the kind of relationships that God wants us to build. But we have to understand, we have to celebrate those differences rather than getting frustrated by those differences, right? So we also need to adapt, and that's very important. We need to adapt. So as a woman, if you want to communicate effectively with your man, if it's not something that is critical to your emotional well-being, then you need to train yourself to be succinct. In other words, to go to the point as quickly as possible so that his eyes don't start glazing over, because, when they have that glazed look, it's like he's looking at you and he's, but he really is not listening any longer. He's lost concentration already, right? You see, so try to train yourself. If it's not something that's crucial to your well-being, maybe it's not a really heartfelt thing, at the moment, try to train yourself to be succinct, to be straightforward in how you communicate. So if he asks you, how much do we need for Junior's shoes? Right? Or how much do you need to buy Junior's? Don't start giving him, all the history of all the price comparisons that you've done in all, those 20 shops, and why, these shoes are better than those shoes, and all that sort of thing. Just give him a figure. All he wants is a figure. Give him a figure, right? Are you the only one that thinks Martis Ketoluhi is my husband? Oh, he absolutely is my husband. He's my sweetheart. He's my best friend. And yes, he is watching. So yes, he is watching. He is always watching. Yeah. So, he gives me all the encouragement, and I'm so grateful to God for him. Right. So, don't just, go into all that history. Go straight to the point, right? And if you're a man, right? If you're a man in the house and you agree with me and you want her to go straight to the point, then just give me a like or a heart or a smiley face or, a laughing face or whatever, so that you show me that you understand that I'm dialing your number, right? Now, when we misunderstand the other person's purpose in communicating, or we assume that their purpose is identical to ours, then we end up with a frustrating exchange. That's the truth. You see, because that's what happens in many marriages. We assume that we know why our partner is communicating, and that misunderstanding defeats the whole purpose of communication. So don't make an assumption that you know or you understand why your partner is communicating. Our goal should be to understand and to adapt to our partner's mode of communication. And that's how we both feel better in our relationships, right? So we've got to adapt. We've got to adapt. Somebody say, I need to adapt. Just type it in the message box. I need to adapt, right? We've got to adapt. Now, men are mostly looking for the most efficient way to solve a problem. So they may only share what they think is essential to the story that they're sharing. And then, a lot of times as a man, you need to understand that this can be hugely frustrating to a woman, because if she feels like you're holding back or you're not fully sharing your feelings, that's why she begins to probe and ask you, further questions, and all that sort of thing. That's why women get frustrated when they ask, how was your day? And you answer with monosyllables. You just say, fine. right? To a woman, that's not communication, because you've just stated a fact. Fine, right? She wants to enter into your world. She wants to see what you see. She wants to feel what you feel. She's not just trying to be nosy or to harass you or anything like that. She just wants to connect with you. That's why she's asking you those questions. Because women connect with words. Women connect with words. If you agree with me, type it in the message box. Women connect with words. You see, and by the way, if you're a man, the correct answer, if your wife asks you, how was your day? The correct answer is not fine. The correct answer is, at 5 a.m. I woke up this morning. I opened my eyes. When I opened my eyes, at that particular moment, my alarm rang as well. When my alarm rang, I didn't really feel like getting up. I was thinking about some of the things that happened yesterday, and I felt a certain way. In other words, she wants a blow-by-blow account of what happened in your day. I'm joking. I'm not, it's not quite, it's not quite as bad as that, but you know where I'm coming from. So just send me a laughing face or something so that I know you understand where I'm coming from. But she wants you to share with her. That's what I'm saying. Women use communication to explore and organize their thoughts so that they may not necessarily filter what they're sharing. They just process as they're talking, because that clarifies their thoughts. So you may feel she's just saying things and saying things and saying things, and all that, and maybe she's just dumping the information on you. But the thing is, the more she talks, the clearer her thoughts become. So when she starts off, she may not be clear exactly where she's going, but as she talks, it clarifies her thinking. That process clarifies her thinking, and a man who does not understand might begin to get frustrated and think, look, get to the point. When in her own mind, this is the point. Talking is the point. I just want you to hear me out. I just want you to understand me. I just want to understand how I'm feeling. I don't need you to problem solve right now. There's a time for problem solving, but I may not need you to problem solve right now. Just show me that you understand how I feel, right? So if she's talking about a difficult day that she had at work, she doesn't necessarily want you to start advising her, look, this is what you need to do with your difficult colleague and all that, this is what you should say to. That is not the issue at that particular point in time. First of all, she wants you to understand. She wants you to empathize. Put yourself in her shoes. Oh, great to have you watching, Chinelo. It's great to have you watching. So she wants you to empathize and put yourself in her shoes. Make her feel like you understand what she's going through. That matters to women. And maybe at the end, after she feels better, then you can offer some advice, right? You see, for a woman, communication breaks down when she feels like her man is minimizing her feelings, or suggesting that her problems are not as real as she feels that they are. So the worst thing you can do when a woman is communicating with you is saying, oh, you're getting too emotional, or look, you're making a mountain out of a molehill, that sort of thing. That does not work well with women. If you agree with me, type in the box, I agree with you, or I am with you, so that I know that you agree with me, or give me a like or a thumbs up or something like that, right? It matters to her. And if it matters to her, it should matter to you. If it matters to her, it should matter to you. It might look like something that's trivial, but you see, if it matters to her, then you should care about how she feels. If you're a woman, type in the message box, if it matters to me, it should matter to you, right? If it matters to me, it should matter to you. You see, talking in itself is therapy for many women, and it helps them regain their balance, and it reassures them that everything is going to be all right, even if the problem remains unsolved. So she's not necessarily looking for a solution. Just listen. That's all I'm asking for. Just listen, right? So men, when she's talking to you, don't feel like she's blaming you, or she's trying to lay the problem on you, or she's asking you to solve the problem. She just wants you to feel what she feels. And when you're talking to her, you need to try to be as open as possible. Give her your time, give her your attention, because that's what makes her feel close to you. That's what makes her feel intimate with you. There's a scripture that I love so much in the book of Ephesians chapter 5, verses 25 to 27. And I'm going to read it from the Message translation because I love the way it renders it. It's so beautiful. It says, husbands, go all out in your love for your wives, exactly as Christ did for the church. It says, go all out, exactly as Christ did for the church. A love marked by giving, not getting. Then it goes on to say, Christ's love makes the church whole. His words evoke her beauty. I love this. It says his words evoke her beauty. In other words, Christ's words bring out the best in his bride, the church. So the same thing applies to you as a husband. Your words should bring out the beauty of your wife or the woman in your life. It says everything he does and says is designed to bring out the best out of her, dressing her in dazzling white silk, radiant with holiness. Wow. This is an awesome explanation of exactly how a man should be to his wife. So your words should bring out the best in your wife. Your words should bring out the beauty in your wife. Everything you do and say should bring out the best in her. That's what the scripture requires, right? So it's crucial that we understand as men what our role is, because you see, a man can transform a woman just by the way he attends to her and the way he listens to her and communicates with her, right? Now, women recognize his need to problem solve, and don't shut him down when he offers solutions. That's really very important. Don't shut him down when he offers solutions. Respect his views. Demonstrate that you respect his views. Don't make him feel incompetent because of your choice of words. You see, you've got to be his lover and not his teacher. That's one thing you need to realize. When you're married to a man, recognize that you're his lover and not his teacher. You're not there to teach him, right? So when you're speaking to a man, you need to speak the language of respect, because when you speak the language of respect, it makes all the difference in the world, right? When you speak the language of respect, it's like, it causes the relationship to flow better, because then he's able to listen and to understand exactly where it is that you're coming from. If you agree with me, give me a like or a thumbs up or a heart or something, so that I know you're there and you agree with me. Now, let me share with you two scriptures that, the Bible talks about in Proverbs chapter 21, talking about speaking the language of respect. It says in Proverbs 21 and verse 9, it says, it's better to live alone in the corner of an attic than with a quarrelsome wife in a lovely home, right? It's better to live alone in the corner of an attic than with a quarrelsome wife in a lovely home. That's the first thing. And it also says it's better to live alone in the desert than with a quarrelsome and complaining wife. You see, so you need to realize that, look, it's so crucial that, as wives, we don't go nagging, husbands, don't go nagging the man in our lives and all. We've got to be careful about the way we speak, the words that we speak, to the man in our lives, because men do not respond to nagging. Men do not respond to nagging. That's the truth of the matter. You see, when men nag as well sometimes, but you see, women are the ones that tend to nag the more, because they have a tendency, to want to use all their extra words. If you see what I mean, they're 13,000 extra words, right? So most nagging is well intentioned, but it can be ineffective. That's the truth. So for a man, communication breaks down when he feels like he's being told what to do, right? If you agree with me, give me a like or a thumbs up, or whatever, so that I know that you agree with me. When a man's competence is questioned, he will put a wall of resistance, up, because, it's like, it doesn't bring out the best in him at all. When a man's competence is questioned, he puts a wall of resistance. So rather than telling him, okay, this is what you should do, and all that sort of thing, but rather, ask, what do you think about this? What do you think about this, right? Rather than just, complaining. So choose your words carefully. When you're speaking to a man, choose your words carefully and use the language of respect. Use the language of respect. Let's just focus on what God is saying to us. Thank you, right? So use the language of respect. Choose your words carefully when you're speaking to a man. Now, if you agree with me, give me a like, a heart, or a thumbs up, or whatever, right? Now, get your questions ready also, because I'll take questions at the end of this sharing. And if you're just joining us, you're very welcome. Let us know where you're watching from. Drop us a message, so that we know where you're watching from. Blessing, is great to have you joining us as well. So as I said, we're talking, if you just joined us, we're talking about the art of communication. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is how to make yourself a first-class communicator in your relationship or your marriage. How to make yourself a first-class communicator, right? So I said that this is all about the art of communication, right? It's about the art of communication. So when you talk about the art of communication, art is spelled A-R-T, right? A-R-T. And I want to break it down to explain what exactly communication means by using those words, for acronyms. So attention, this is the equation that I came up with for communication. Attention plus reflection plus translation equals effective communication. Now, if you're with me, just type in the message box, attention plus reflection plus translation equals effective communication. Right, and I'm going to break those down so that we understand, exactly what I mean by this. First of all, let's talk about attention. Now, the question that you can you have this video sent to you? We work on that. Thank you, Mary, for that comment. So, first of all, the first question is attention. Attention. And the question that you need to, ask yourself when you're talking about, attention is, how can I make you feel valuable? How can I make you feel valuable? Right? Because attention demonstrates value. So when you give attention to someone, it demonstrates that you value that person, that you place value on them, right? So you pay attention to what matters to you. So giving a person your full attention tells them that they matter to you, and it starts your communication off on the right footing. So you've got to give out, give the person that you're talking to attention. Now, it's important that we realize that attention deficit is one of the most serious threats that is facing relationships today. Attention deficit is one of the most serious threats that is facing relationships today. Can we just ignore the distractions and let's just focus on what God is saying here, right? So it's one of the most serious threats that is facing, relationships today. We're all facing information overload, and there's so many distractions, that are vying for our attention. It used to be only TV, right, that we had to compete with, but now there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's Twitter, there's Snapchat, there's email, there's YouTube. Our attention spans are shortening, but we need to be deliberate about giving our partner the attention that they require. If we want to build our relationships, you've got to be deliberate about building, giving them that attention, because if you're too busy for your partner, then you're too busy. Did you hear me? If you're too busy for your partner, you're too busy. If you agree with me, give me a like or a thumbs up or a heart or something so that I know that you agree with me. If you're too busy for your partner, you're too busy. Because, at the end of the day, if you want to build a relationship, then, you've actually got to give that person attention. Now, let me share with us a few habits that, sometimes people cultivate without realizing it, and we need to realize that these are habits to avoid, because when we avoid them, then it demonstrates that we're giving attention to that person. So, for instance, the first of them is ignoring. Not giving the person eye contact, not paying attention when they're talking. So, your spouse or your partner is trying to talk to you, you're on your phone, you're paying attention to this, you're reading the newspaper, they're talking to you, you're not looking up and all that, you're not paying attention. Give someone eye contact, because attention demonstrates that you really, really care. Give them eye contact. Don't ignore them while they're trying to share with you. The second thing is interrupting. Not allowing them to fully form their thoughts. And sometimes people do this without realizing. So someone is talking and you jump in. Your partner is talking and you jump in before they fully formed their thoughts. Jumping in to prefer solutions before they have finished speaking is a sign of impatience, right? And it's something, thank you, darling. That's my husband cheering me on. Right? So, it's a sign of impatience, and that's something that we should not, we should not give into. Now, there's a very undiplomatic scripture, there's some scriptures that really hit the nail on the head. They go for the jugular, and I'm like, ooh, if I said that, maybe I would have been milder in saying that. There's a scripture in Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 13. It says, answering before listening is both stupid and rude. I didn't say that. It was the scriptures that said that. And when I saw it, I was like, ooh, that's full face. But it's like saying, you don't answer before actually hearing what the person has to say, because that is actually rude and it doesn't demonstrate that you're giving them attention. So give them the attention that they deserve. right? Give them the attention that they need in order to be able to communicate effectively. And then the third one is hijacking. Sometimes people hijack a conversation, so they divert the conversation to their own needs. So your spouse or your partner, wants to talk to you about something, and they start saying, well, when I woke up, this morning, I was, feeling a certain way. I've had an extremely busy day, right? And they're about to tell you about their busy day, and you're like, my own day was really so busy too. In fact, my boss did this, and then, this person did that, and I had to go to this meeting, this, that, and the other. It started off about them, but then suddenly it becomes all about you, right? So, at the end of the day, you've got to realize that, you'd like to expatiate on, women being emotional thinkers. Okay, right. So don't hijack the conversation, right? Don't hijack the conversation. Let the communication flow, because when you hijack the conversation, it shuts down the flow of communication because your partner feels like you don't care for them, right? So sometimes we do it without realizing it, but catch yourself. So if they're talking, let them talk, let them share, let them, empty what's in their heart before you come back with whatever it is that's in your heart. So that's the first thing, attention, right? Now, the second thing is this reflection. Reflection. So I've said the A, this is the R for reflection. And the word for the question for reflection is, what are you really saying? That's what you're thinking in your mind. As the person is talking, well, thank you, Chinwe, for being so honest. She says she's guilty of impatience. Once you realize it, then you know what to do about it. That's the thing, right? So it's important that we recognize it. So what are you really saying? That's what you should be thinking. As the person is talking, ask yourself, what are they really saying to me, right? Give serious thought to what is being said, because reflective listening is a relationship saving skill. Because the truth is this, 98% of good communication is about your ability to accurately interpret what that person is saying. It's not just about, the words that they're saying and just hearing the words, but it's being able to interpret what exactly it is that they're saying, not overlaying it with your own ideas or your own thoughts, but getting what was in my spouse's heart or what was in my partner's heart, what was their intent when they started talking, right? So that's really, really crucial. Right, if you agree with me, give me a like or a thumbs up or a heart or something, so I know you're still out there and you agree with me as well, right? So it's crucial. Ask yourself, what are they saying? That's what should be going on in your mind as they're talking, right? You need to understand that hearing is not equal to listening, right? That's one thing we need to realize. Hearing is not equal to listening. So the fact that we hear doesn't mean that we have listened, right? They're two different things. Hearing is just passive. It's just passive. But, reflection is actively interacting with the message and reflecting back to the person to ensure that you actually understand what it is that they're saying. You all need this video. We've got to find a way to get you have the video. Now, so you've got to actually help them understand or realize that you understand exactly what it is, that they're going through, you're reflecting back to them that you understand. You see, sometimes we might have to ask further questions to draw them out, and to clarify what is being said. Reflection gives room for empathy. Right? Empathy simply means putting yourself in the other person's shoes. You see, the best way to avoid stepping on your partner's toes is to put yourself in their shoes. If you agree with me, give me a like or a thumbs up or a heart or something. The best way to avoid stepping on your partner's toes is to put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in their shoes and try and understand where they're coming from. Reflect on what they're saying and try to get the true meaning of what they're saying. Now, there's some habits to avoid if we want to demonstrate reflection. Number one is assumptions. Entering the conversation with a biased mind, where we assume that we understand what the person is saying or where they're going before they have actually finished talking or before we have fully listened. Don't make assumptions, because if you make assumptions or you jump to conclusions, then you shut down the conversation or the communication, because that person cannot really open their heart the way that they want to. Now, and the second thing that we need to avoid if we're going to reflect properly, and this one is so crucial, and I want you to get this, so crucial. My spouse complains, my fiance complains about attention while chatting with him. Okay, we'll talk about that, right? So, listening to reply, not to understand. This one is really important. Sometimes when we're listening to someone, we're not listening to understand, we're listening to reply. Thank you, Christian. Said this message must go viral. Thank you. If you could share it on your Facebook page, every one of you watching, share it on your Facebook page so that other people can also benefit from what we're sharing. But thank you very much for that. That's really, really nice of you. Right? So listen to understand. Don't just listen to reply. Sometimes, I'm sure you've caught yourself doing this. Sometimes when, the person is talking, and in your mind, you're busy working on your answer. You're so hard working on your answer that you're not actually getting what they're saying. Right? So don't listen to reply. Listen to understand. Don't just listen to reply. Listen to understand, right? So don't switch off, from what they're saying and be thinking, oh, this is what I'm going to say when they finish saying, and then as soon as they finish talking, you jump in with your own words. No. You've got to listen to what they're actually saying, understand them first before you form your own answer, right? So listen to understand, not to reply. You can type that in the message box if you're getting me. Type it in the message box. Listen to understand, not just to reply. St. Francis of Assisi said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. So the first thing you should be thinking about is, look, how do I understand, first of all, before I start thinking about, how to reply, and all that. So let your partner go first and get to understand them first. Now, the third thing, the T, is translation, right? So we've done the A, which is attention, the R is reflection, the T is translation. And the question you need to ask yourself for translation is this: what response will meet your need? That's what the question you should be asking as that person is talking. What response will meet your need? Because before your partner starts talking, there's a need in their heart, right? And rather than just answering, off the cuff, ask yourself, what answer will meet your need? What response will meet your need, right? So in responding to, communication, we must translate effectively what they're trying to say, right? And convert that insight that we have gained into an appropriate response that will meet our partner's need. Because it's not all about you. It's about them as well. So it's not all about, just getting what you have in your heart out. It's about them as well. It's about meeting their needs. It's about building intimacy. It's about building encouragement and respect in the relationship. If you agree with me, give me a like or a heart or a thumbs up or something so that I know that you're there. You see, if the response we give back to that person does not match the effort that they have put in by speaking to us, then they feel undervalued. And that's what you don't want, right? They feel undervalued. Right? So we've got to really, make them feel that they're valued. Thank you very much. If you're just joining us, just drop in the message box where you're watching from. It's not too late for you to let us know where you're watching from. So just let me know where you're watching from. And thank you for joining as well. So, give back to them, translate, give back to them, translate what is in your heart to a response. That's what I'm trying to say. To a response that matches the effort that they have made in talking to you. And then that makes them feel valued. So you've got to be asking yourself, what response are they looking for? And you give that response. If it's encouragement, then you give encouragement. If it's just a listening ear, you give a listening ear. If they just want to feel that things are going to be better, then, give them that, whatever it is, give them what it is that they're looking for. Now, I'm just going to round up now, and I'm going to be sharing, just a few things, just a few pointers, and that's where I'm going to round up. But I'd like to say, get your questions ready, because I'm going to take questions at the end. So if you have questions you'd like to ask, get them ready, type them in the message box, and I will look at them once I've finished sharing. So there are 3 types of communication, and that's where I'm going to round up very briefly. 3 types of communication in a relationship. The first of them is proactive communication. Proactive communication, right? So proactive communication in a relationship is your daily catch-up, making time to intentionally deal with issues so that they don't fester, right? So, a lot of times people don't take that time to oil the wheels of the relationship by talking. But you see, if you want a relationship to grow, then you have to constantly be communicating. You have to make that effort every single day to communicate one way or the other. I mean, with my husband and I, what we tend to do is, when we both get back from work, and we sit down, once we've, had our meals and whatever, we try to sit down and have, a quick chat. How was your day? How did it go? What happened and all that. He shares with me how his day went, and what the issues, might have been. I share with him also, how my day was, and what the issues might have been. We talk, we share, we open up our feelings and all that, and we make that a habit every day. Even if, he's away or I'm away and all, we try to catch up on the phone, and just share a little bit about our day. That's proactive communication. We shouldn't leave things to fester. We should constantly be communicating. That's the first thing. So make up your mind to make time to communicate in your relationship if you want to build intimacy, because intimacy is built on, shared communication and shared experiences. So it's very, very important. If you want your relationship to work, you've got to be proactive about communication. You cannot afford to be too busy to listen to or to talk to the person that you're in a relationship with, because relationships don't keep themselves going. You've got to keep it going, right? So that's the very first thing, proactive communication. Now, let me just say that if you're watching the rebroadcast, then please, it's not too late for you to let me know where you're watching from, because I'm going to come back and watch and listen to all the read all the messages and all the questions and all that at the end. So drop me a message, right? So that's the first thing. The second is reactive communication. Reactive communication has to do with dealing with issues as they come up. So an issue comes up, you deal with it. Another issue comes up, we deal with it. Some people, unfortunately, all their relationship is all about reactive communication. So something comes up, they deal with it. Something comes up, they deal with it, because they're not constantly talking and sharing. But when you talk and you share constantly, then you build intimacy, and then it's easy to flow. When there's something you need to react to, you can solve it quickly. Sometimes reactive communication is required, but if you have more proactive communication, then issues will not build up to the point where you have to have this firefighting, approach to issues, which is what reactive communication is. So there's proactive communication, there's reactive communication, and then the third one is radioactive communication. I got this from Jimmy Evans. Radioactive communication. Radioactive communication is explosive communication. That's when you get to a point where you can't even see eye to eye on an issue at all. You're talking, but it's like anytime you know what it is, when you raise this particular issue, it becomes a big thing. It becomes a real issue, in your relationship. Thank you, Justina from Germany. It's great to have you joining us. So you've got to be very, very careful, about not allowing things to fester to the point where they become radioactive. Next month, I'm going to be talking about, that conflict when something has become radioactive, when there's an issue that you can never really get to the bottom of. Every time you talk about it, it becomes a problem. In some families, it's money. In some relationships, it's sex. In some relationships, it's, maybe the children or in-laws or whatever. So we're going to be talking about, conflict resolution and, that whole radioactive communication thing. That's what we're going to be talking about next month. So don't miss it. Make sure you join me next month. But what I'm saying is be proactive in your communication. Don't let issues become, radioactive before you address them, right? It's very, very crucial. Now, I hope this has helped you. If this has helped you, give me a like or a thumbs up or, something. Just let me know, or just say, it has helped me, and then drop me a message. If you've got a question, drop me a question as well. I don't know if there are any questions. I haven't actually seen any questions, but if you have a question, this is the point at which, you can just drop me a question in the message box and I will answer it right now. Now, before, I answer questions, let me just say, 3 things I'd like you to do. Actually 4 things. First of all, subscribe at my website, tommytalks.com, so that you will never miss a video again, because a lot of you might have realized I have nearly 100,000 followers on Facebook. We're getting close to 100,000. So we're going to be celebrating maybe by tomorrow, who knows, right? So they're nearly 100,000 followers. But the Facebook algorithms has a way of not showing everyone that has liked the page, the things that I share. So if you want to be sure that you always get my messages, then go to my website and subscribe, tommytalks.com, so that you will get an email every week that tells you I've shared this message or that message, and and then you can go and watch it. That's the first thing. The second thing is connect with me on social media, right? If you're on Facebook, and you've connected with me, you've liked my page, Also, could you connect with me on Instagram as well? Because on Instagram, I share some things that I don't share on Facebook. So find me on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm Tomi Toluhi. So find me on Instagram and you just, connect with me there. I'd really love to see you, on Instagram. I'm also on YouTube. All my videos are on YouTube if you want to watch them on YouTube. So all my videos are there. And then also Twitter as well. So, just, connect with me anywhere else that you have not connected with me on Facebook or on Twitter or wherever, right? So now, the third thing I'd also like to say is tell a friend, right? So tell a friend, and share this on social media so that other people, get the opportunity to enjoy what it is that, that we're sharing here. And so now, let me see if there are any questions that I might have missed. Okay, someone says, is it really possible to be attentive, reflective, and translate what the person is saying and give a reply in time? Well, that's a very good question. Is it possible to be reflective, to do all of this at once? It's a skill. That's why I said it's a skill and it takes time to learn. But you see, the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature to the point where it actually becomes, a part of you. Now, all these things I've explained, it looks as if, it's been spread out, but actually it's all compressed into a few moments. So the person starts talking to you, you give them your attention, you look up from what you're doing, you listen to them, and try to understand where it is, that they're coming from and all that. And then you as they're talking, you're reflecting, you're thinking, you're trying to understand what it is, that they're saying. And then you make a response by translation. So it is possible. And that's the ideal. But, sometimes when we're learning skills, it doesn't come naturally. But with time, if we keep doing it, it becomes a part of us, right? So if you have maybe certain, habits like, hijacking a conversation or maybe ignoring and all that, you catch yourself. And the more you catch yourself, the better you get. So that's why it's a skill. Skills take time to learn, but when we learn them, they become second nature. So yes, it is possible to be able to do all this in a conversation, right? So now let me see, is there any other question that I've missed? If I've missed your question, then please type it again so that I can see it, because it might have disappeared, with the rest of them. But I mean, you've been a fantastic audience, quite frankly. It's been great really talking to every one of you. Just trying to make sure I didn't miss anyone's questions. When are we having our own masterclass here in Enugu with you? It will be an honor. Well, just keep praying, and trusting God. Yes, I'm sure at some point I will come to Enugu. So we've got the masterclass in Lagos, which is on November the 3rd. Next year, we're going to have a masterclass in Abuja. We're going to have one in London as well. So if you're in Lagos or in Lagos environs, please make sure you register quickly. And don't wait till November to do it. The early bird discounts, actually end on 31st of July. So if you want to register, the sooner you do it, the better, so that you get a discount. And when you register, not only do you have access to the class, but you also get, to access to a closed Facebook group, where you can share with me, talk to me, and then also you get a free copy of, one of my books when you come for the masterclass. So please make sure that you do register as quickly as possible. I've heard people saying, they want to come from other states as well. So please do that. You don't have to be in Lagos to attend. You can arrange a holiday or something and attend. Well, I'm looking for questions. There might be a few other questions. I just want to make sure I don't miss any. If you've got a question and I haven't answered, then please just type it again so that I can answer your question. Well, I can't seem to find any other questions, but it's great to have you. It's great to have had you. Now, if you do have a question that I might have missed, then please just, type it in the message box. I will come back and I will respond to it, even if not on live, but I will respond to it by typing. What time in London? So you mean the London masterclass? I'm going to share the date very soon. Very soon. We have dates in our calendar already, but I'll share it on my Facebook page. But it's in 2019. We're going to have the London masterclass. So we're going to be hitting London, no doubt about that. So spread the word also, to all your friends in London and get them to get ready for the London masterclass. Thank you very much for joining. It's been fantastic. You've been a great audience, and if you like what you've heard, or if it's helped you, then just give me, a like or thumbs up. Just send me some love, so that I know it's been great and you've enjoyed. How do we register for the masterclass in Lagos? If you go onto my website, marriagemasterclass.org. Actually, that's a dedicated website for this event. Marriage Masterclass, www.marriagemasterclass.org. All the instructions are there. There's a single session which is in the morning for 4 hours. There's a session for couples, married people, in the afternoon as well. So you can register for one or the other, or if you really want the full package, you can register for both, as the case may be. So once you go on there, you will see, what exactly it is that it takes to register. You can pay directly from your bank account. You can pay. There's so many options of how you can pay, right? But so just go on there and register as soon as possible. Thank you very much. You've been fantastic. It's been lovely having you. So get ready to join me next month. Next month is going to be August the 4th. August the 4th at the same time, which is 8 p.m. London time, 8 p.m. Nigerian time, August the 4th. That will be our next broadcast. So don't miss it. Tell your friends, make sure that they're there as well. And as I said, keep sharing and keep connecting on Facebook and on Instagram and all the rest of that. As I said, on Facebook, I share every single week. So every Saturday I upload a new video. So if it doesn't come into your feed, just go onto my page and have a look at it, and God will bless you as you do so. Thank you for joining. It's been fantastic having you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and see you next time. God bless you and bye for now.